Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day I beam your ears to a different part of the world and try and share a cool, positive story of how technology is transforming our world, but also, of course, with a human story at the very heart of that tech journey. And today, I need you all to wrap up warm because I'm going to be beaming your ears all the way to Estonia to join me in conversation with Martin Rand, CEO and co-founder of a company called Pactum AI. Now, Pactum is currently working with Walmart, and they're also been signed on as a partner with DocuSign too. They've got some big partners here. And Pactum is particularly useful in the current climate as companies are losing money and needing to renegotiate those contracts. And ultimately, my understanding is that it saves money for retailers while also getting the best deals for vendors, all without any human interaction on the company's side. But enough spoilers from me. Buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Estonia so we can speak with Martin Rand, CEO and co-founder of Pactum. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, Neil. Thanks for having me. So my name is Martin Rand. I'm the co-founder of Pactum. And what we do is we renegotiate long-tail vendor deals with AI.
Excellent. And you have also been an entrepreneur for many, many years. I mean, you were a product manager at Skype, created VitalFields, which I believe you later sold to Monsanto, and now the founder and CEO of Pactum. So can you remember the moment that you fell in love with tech, though, and what put you on this path?
Yeah. One thing that put me on the path of IT was, I think, a situation where I was a salesman in my early 20s, and my job was to sell firewalls and antivirus software, and I called to a quite a big enterprise at that time in the beginning of 2000s, and queried the IT manager if they needed a firewall solution. And well, he said that, well, yes, they do, because all of their computers are directly in the internet and they don't have any firewalls in between. And then I realized, wow, there's a lot of opportunity in this world to make things better and more efficient. And the solutions that we're working on have become more complex since then, but I think these opportunities will always remain. And so that path led me to my engagement with Skype. I was a product manager there. I then set up a farm management system for farmers. So in a completely new area, but the intersection of food production and IT was really interesting. So we created a farm management system, scaled it to 7 countries, and ended up selling that to Monsanto. So as the result of this acquisition, I became a commercial lead for Europe for Monsanto's Climate Corporation, which was their digital arm. And my job was I was responsible for sales and for negotiating with large food and ag companies in Europe, and so I got to experience negotiating, with the Ukrainians, with the Spanish, with the French, and I think I got to experience all of the cultural differences and all of the cognitive biases there one could experience. And I thought, wow, this is sometimes more difficult than it should be, and perhaps technology could help here. So, and that's how the idea of Pactum was born.
I love that. And here in 2020, Pactum is an AI-based system that helps global companies to autonomously offer personalized commercial negotiations, but on an incredible scale. But can you set the scene and tell me a little bit more about the kind of problems that you're attempting to solve with technology with Pactum?
Absolutely. So our customers are the largest enterprises in the world, so for instance, one company that we can name is Walmart, which is the largest company in the world by revenue, and most of our revenue is coming from Fortune 500 companies. And the problem that these companies are having is similar. So they have usually tens of thousands of vendors, and 80% of these vendors are tail spend or long tail or unmanaged long tail, as they're sometimes called, and that means those deals with small vendors are sometimes quite neglected, and that means they're inefficient. So we help to renegotiate those deals with our system, and that produces new efficiency for both sides. That makes the deal better for the vendor and makes the deal better for the enterprise, our customer.
And I recently read that Pactum is currently working with Walmart to renegotiate contracts. So can I ask that you share a little bit more about this? Because I think it will perfectly illustrate the kind of value that you're offering here.
Yeah. So what we're allowed to say about the Walmart engagement is just the fact that they are a customer. No other details, but I can generally illustrate what we do and how does it provide value. So imagine imagine a small vendor to a large enterprise, and the procurement or merchandising team probably hasn't actually spoken to this vendor sometimes in years, because let's say this vendor has a cost to the enterprise of $100,000, and it's quite a small amount for people to actually deal with it actively and make sure that this deal is in the best possible shape, because the gains that would result from such an activity are maybe $5,000 or $8,000, and this is simply operationally too expensive to do with people. However, what our bot does is that firstly we go into the enterprise. We spend about 1 to 2 months on analysis and designing these negotiations. So this is a very thorough work, and once it's ready, the system sends out an email to the vendor saying, "Hey, you've been a great and respected vendor. We think there might be values in this. We might increase the value of this deal for both sides. Let's talk." And once they click on this link, a conversational chatbot-like interface opens, which will discuss with the vendor quite like a person would. And they can, and the whole goal of this process is to find out what the vendor values most, and if the enterprise can increase the value to the vendor, and vice versa, and then those trades happen, and so both sides end up gaining.
Excellent. And I appreciate you probably can't go into too much detail on this either, but when I was doing a bit of research on you, I also saw you doing a little bit of work with DocuSign as well. Another great partner to have under your belt there. But is there anything you can share on that?
Sure. So DocuSign is not only a partner, they are an investor in Pactum. They joined our last seed round, and I think DocuSign is an excellent partner because they are they are investing a lot into what they call the agreement cloud. So of course they are the main player in digital signing, and they are building an ecosystem around this that would involve creating and managing agreements, and Pactum fits into that world perfectly, because we are the very front end. We come up with this new agreement. We conduct those negotiations automatically.
And do you have any examples or use cases that you could possibly share just on how Pactum saves money for retailers while also getting those best deals for vendors, all without human interaction on the company's side? Because I think it's such an important thing right now, especially in the current climate, isn't it?
Sure, it is. Essentially what happens is that we map out all of the positive and negative levers in a negotiation. Essentially all of the items to negotiate about, and so these get discussed in the negotiation. So the enterprise might be interested in a price discount, but they might be able to give value to the vendor, for instance, change the payment terms or change the logistics or warehousing terms. The vendor might increase value not only with price. The vendor might increase value to the enterprise by shipping the products in smaller batches, or offering exclusivity for the products, or accepting different payment terms. So the system will find the optimal combination of those items for both sides.
So I also believe that the web-based tools applications range from supplier negotiations for online marketplaces all the way through to enterprise and retail procurement negotiations. So if we do have any decision makers listening at some big retailers out there that could be anywhere in the world, what would you say is the most exciting part of Pactum?
Well, I could talk about what is exciting now, and I could talk about what is exciting in the future. So what is exciting now is the automation. So this is basically a system that can do commercial development, and we have a backend system where our customer, the enterprise, can review all the ongoing negotiations, and it's just so exciting seeing numbers pop up there. The bot has made one deal, $4,000 more efficient, and another deal $15,000 more efficient, and this is happening on autopilot without human involvement. And of course, in an enterprise, those small numbers add up, and it can generate tens and tens of millions of dollars of new bottom line profit. But in the future, what is exciting about this is that now we're talking to different participants of the same value chain. And I think it won't be long until we can have bot-to-bot negotiations. And if you think about the kind of the possibilities of that, the possibilities are quite big and endless. Basically, you could renegotiate deals not yearly, but every day or every minute. You could basically renegotiate deals based on commodity price changes all the time. So that's something that's very exciting.
And of course, I'm speaking to you in Estonia at the moment, and I've spoken with a few startups in Estonia and also even featured the e-Residency opportunity. But I'm curious, what is it you think that makes Estonia perfect for startup culture there? Because it's really thriving, isn't it? Yes,
indeed. And the founder and GM of e-Residency is one of our founders, Casper. I think, I've thought about that a lot. I think there are two reasons. We had Skype and it's cold. So the first reason was that so many young people so early saw this huge success, what Skype had in the world. And Skype was, all the 4 founding engineers were Estonian. Skype had the largest office in Estonia. So many young people could work there and saw the endless possibilities out there. And now all of this knowledge and capital is being reinvested into new startups and creating this exponential growth. And of course it's cold. So we're a Northern European country, and so it's cold, and there's nothing else to do other than work at home on a new startup, and that's I think one of the driving factors behind it.
Love it. And looking towards the future, I mean, what's next for Pactum? What is your big focus going to be over the next 18 months?
Yeah, so new deployments. So all of the most innovative Fortune 500 companies have already reached out, and we're in discussions with them. And so the bottleneck is not in sales anymore. So it will be very exciting. We'll have a lot of big names coming up who will use Pactum.
Fantastic. And for anyone listening that would like to follow you on that journey and see how everything evolves, or even reach out and contact a member of your team, what's the best way of doing that?
Sure. I'll share my personal email address. It's martin@pactum.com, and reach out to me if you mention that you heard about Pactum on this podcast. Then you'll definitely get special treatment, and the rest of the information is on pactum.com.
If only I got that special treatment every time I mention on this podcast. But I absolutely love what you're doing here, what you stand for, and everything that you're building towards. I'd love to stay in touch with you, get you back on in 6 months or so and see how that's going. But more than anything, just a big thank you for sharing your inspirational story with me today.
I'd be happy to. And thanks, Neil, for inviting and letting me share the story.
What a great story. And I must admit, another reason, not that I need one, for me to fly to Estonia once I'm allowed to travel again. That place is rising rapidly up my bucket list. But remember those days? Travel? It seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? But Pactum is an AI-based solution that helps companies to autonomously offer personalised, commercialised negotiations at a tremendous scale. And I do love how the system is adding value that saves time for both the Pactum client and their negotiation partner by simply aligning their values to determine win-win agreements via easy-to-use chat interfaces, while also implementing best practice negotiation strategies. But I also love the story behind it, and especially more in secret to startup success in Estonia is that whole culture is being created because of the fact that it's just too cold and they've got Skype, so they focus on building something. And for people that are new to this podcast, we have featured quite a few Estonian startups over the last few months. It's clear that there's something incredibly exciting happening there, and one of the reasons that it set off my spidey senses and makes me want to go, not to mention the beautiful scenery too, of course. But if you'd like me to put where you live on the map and the startup culture in your area that you don't think gets shouted about enough, then please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk, and direct message me on LinkedIn, Twitter. Just look for @NeilCHughes. I'm the easiest guy in the world to find. So I wish Martin the best as he continues on his journey and picking up some huge partners in the process. But more than anything, just a big thank you to each and every one of you for listening every single day. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.